Thank you, Shri Kailash Adhikari. It's a distinct honor to be here today in front of you, talking about BFSI. BFSI, there are many things which have happened over the last 30, 40 years, and all of us, at least I can see, this group is slightly elder group, whereas today most people who talk about BFSI are all what they call themselves fintech. So I'll take you through the journey. Many of us who have come from banking, we have always been giving a lot of lectures, listening to a lot of lectures on inclusion, financial inclusion. And that is probably from 1980s, that how do we create inclusion of people who did not have ability to get banked. Unbanked had to be banked, because when I was studying, I was always told that if India has telephone line in every home, then its GDP will continue to increase 2% per year on year for next 1,000 years. Because we did not have it, so people were telling us that GDP will increase by 2% extra if you have only telephone lines at home. And they knew it is very difficult to get telephone lines in every home in India. We tried, but literally it used to take 5 years for a telephone line to come to your home in 92, 93. Similarly, it was also said that additional 2% GDP will increase if all the people in India could have a bank account. So these are all the economists who used to tell us 50 years back that banking and telephone lines are going to increase India's GDP, whatever it is, it will increase by 2 plus 2 extra 4%. And if you look back all those papers and research papers, peer-reviewed research papers coming out of Oxford and Cambridge and wherever, it used to be like that only, saying you do this, then the prosperity will come. And we always used to think that how will we do this, right? How will we achieve this? And in some ways today, after 30, 35 years of liberalization, you can say started somewhere around 1990, 91. So we are almost 33 years from there. And today, by quirk of fate, of course, by also a lot of hard work and planning, execution on behalf of everyone, but also by regulators, that today India is pretty much the innovation hub in the entire world, especially for BFSI, but for many other things. And so that is the story I want to tell you, that how India got into this. Why did it happen? Why did everything which is something to do with technology start from finance, and where we are today, where we are going? So around 1990-91, we started liberalizing, not out of choice, but out of the balance of payment crisis. We had serious balance of payment crisis, and we did not have even 15 days of foreign exchange available with us. I had just started my job in IDBI. At that time, it was a financial institution. And we did not have 15 days of foreign exchange, so we had to actually pledge our gold, which was lying with RBI, to banks abroad. And that is how we raised the funds. We did not default as a country on the repayment of foreign currency loans, which we had taken as a sovereign. But we came extremely close to that. We have never defaulted in our entire history of independent India. Many countries default in their loans, sovereign loans, very often. Brazil, Argentina, Pakistan. Many of them have become habitual. And once you figure out why people keep on giving them additional money, is because they get charged more and things like that. And of course, there are other backside arrangements which get made and things like that. But India has been what I call a good student of economics, and also has been a good citizen of the world, that we never defaulted. But in 91, 92, we came very close. And that is the time Dr. Manmohan Singh, who used to be RBI governor at some point, he was also in World Bank, and he had seen how the economic progress that was happening in export-oriented countries, and the countries which were very closely controlled, like India, were losing out because we were very inward looking. In 1947, we became independent. And at that time, many of our leaders and as a society, we decided that, I'm making this up, but broadly this is how it happened in my mind, that we decided that we will not trade with the world. Because somebody came to trade with us from outside world and subjugated us, so we will basically be self-reliant. Mahatma Gandhi also gave that sort of framework of charkha and everything, which was basically every village has to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, and don't depend on outside. As a country also will not trade with others because they come and subjugate us. So we became very inward-looking. And our leaders also had studied, most of our leaders were from rich families. Otherwise, you would not have gone to the UK to study. So they were like, even Mahatma Gandhi was son of a minister in the state where his father was working. And similarly, other people, they were largely rich people who went to UK, but they were feeling deprived because Britishers were ruling those people who were supposed to rule us. And so we wanted independence. In a way, their framework, they were feeling deprived, and they got impressed by the logic, the marketing, the sales, and also the real achievements of the socialist republics like USSR and other things, that they are able to create huge industrialization and take up their per capita GDP very fast. And when India becomes independent, we will be able to do that. And so that's where we became inward-looking and we became socialist. And put together, we continued from 1947 to 1991. We had many near misses in 1970s, where the world went through a serious issue of inflation and other things. But 1990s, and 1990s also was a time where USSR were breaking down. If you see perestroika, some of you are old enough would remember German unification. Those were the time the capitalism had won and the socialism or communism had lost. It was just beginning to take shape, but leaders who were moving around, we were all not aware, but they were aware that this philosophy is not working out, and that's where we liberalized. As soon as we liberalized, the stock market started going up, and prices of many stocks went up many-fold, assuming that when the liberalization happens, all these people who had controls of what they can produce, how they can produce, there used to be license Raj. Some of you have heard, but many of you might not have experienced. But those days, somebody sitting in Delhi, a bureaucrat, would decide how many blades India would require to shave itself in the morning. And then that guy will say, you have to do it in particular place in Bihar or probably in Haryana, where there is no electricity, no roads, no coal available, no steel available, and still you have to. Why I'm telling you this is how our economic history has gone, and within that context. So basically there was a license Raj, and people were still happy to set up those plants because they were not getting any other way to actually set up plants. And once you made a plant, it was short guarantee of good profits because the shortages were always there. If you remember Bajaj Chetak, there were queues, right? And everything goes on. Everything, you had to literally pay more than what was announced, and it would take you 5-10 years to get, even a scooter, right? Because there was a short profit, and it was always running on shortages. Many of those still are there in our lives, but the genesis is from there. And so that's where the stock prices started going up, saying many of these companies like ACC or other Hindustan Lever, they will not require any license to produce. So they will be able to produce things when they want, they feel like where they want to produce and things like that. And that has actually come true in some ways. And that was the hope. Other people, outsiders, had seen this story unfold in many country after country. And that's why they were investing more in us than we were investing in ourselves. So if you see last 30 years history is also that foreigners always had more hope on India's economic progress than Indians had. We were investing in gold, importing Yellowstone, and putting $500 billion in last 20 years. Whereas they were investing in our labor, our production. That is also an interesting story, but not today. But effectively, that's where the stock prices started going up. And government naturally assumed that this is happening because of this liberalization that is happening. License Raj has been removed and things like that. And in 1992, it was realized at some point that it was not happening. The stock prices were not going up because government was doing something nice and License Raj was removed, but also because some stockbrokers were taking money out of RBI in some clandestine way and putting it into stock markets. So that's where the stock markets collapsed, and it is now known as Harshad Mehta scam. So it was actually a banking scam, which became a stock market scam in our popular parlance, because there was a villain which was there called Harshad Mehta. But effectively, whatever the case, many of you might have now seen serials on Sony Live and other things, and people might think that that person was good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter. But effectively, that was a break point where the regulators, the policymakers thought that if you are going from a command and control economy to what we call market-driven economy, then we need to have cleaner markets, the markets which are not owned and operated by stockbrokers. Instead, we need cleaner markets, and that's where a new proposal was set up under M.J. Firwani committee. M.J. Firwani used to be the chairman of UTI, Unit Trust of India, and that committee recommended that we need to have a new modern exchange which will be automated and it will act as a model for other exchanges. That's how NSE was conceptualized in 1992, and in 1993, it actually was formed as a company. 1994, around April, May, we started working on the bond market, because bond market was where the issues were, which was interbank markets, and there were brokers also. RBI had banned brokers because of the Harshad Mehta scam, so people had to trade on their own. But on November 3, 1994, NSE started trading in equities. So around April, May, we started in bond. Around June, July, Dr. Manmohan Singh came to inaugurate as a finance minister. And in November, that is on Diwali day, we started trading in equities market, which was basically the traditional business of stockbrokers and stock exchanges. And that was a revolution, which is now known as fintech, which is also now known as public digital infrastructure, and so on and so forth. That time, imagine 1992, 93, not many people had seen computers in India. Nobody thought this is possible. I can see some of you who have been with this market here in the auditorium now, who were there at that time, and everyone knew that this is not going to work. This is just a pipe dream. But by quirk of fate, and of course it used to take 5 years for a landline to come to your house or your office, and it would generally be not working unless you were paying something to the linesman. Right? Linesmen were the people who were getting or demanding the highest amount of dowry in sort of marriage markets those days, because they were supposed to get so much money outside. And from that, we created a framework. There was no way we could have changed India in 1 day or 1 year or 10 years. And so we visualized the framework. We were sending as a country a lot of satellites in the sky, but we were not using them for the commercial purposes. So we said, okay, if we have satellites available, we will probably use that to connect two-way for placing orders, receiving trades and all by every broker in India. And that's where the NSE came with a screen-based trading, which not many people had seen. In 1991, when I joined IDBI, we had bought 1,000 computers as a bank, and every computer was broadly, probably 10% were used, but 90% were fully covered in plastic for almost a year or two. And in the meantime, we had a strike by all officers and all employees opposing computers, that will take away our jobs. So it was like just coming into India, nobody thought how computers work. People who had actually access to computers also had never opened. Nobody understood. And on that November 3, 1994, we created basically a miracle called National Stock Exchange, which before that, just before that or after that, Infosys IPO came. Infosys was a new company created by 5-6 young people, not from business families, from a sort of a retirement town called Bangalore. And they had issued shares at 70 rupees per share. And that issue had failed. Nobody subscribed. And people who were underwriting those issues had to actually pay for that, and they became accidental billionaires because that 70 rupee share became probably worth 10,000-20,000 rupees over last 30 years. But why I'm telling you this story is that India was not known for computers. We were setting it up for a business which was actually the most anachronistic. It was actually happening on floor. People used to shout at each other. They used to take out each other's collars and all. From there, we were just trying to create, we didn't even know what we were doing. We were told to do, as many of us are bank employees here, you are told to do something, you go and do it, right? So that's what we were trying to do. We didn't know whether it will work, it will not work, what kind of revolution it will bring. But that is where, when NSE started working, and it started working across India using the satellite telecom, 2 seconds, anywhere in the country, you could actually place an order and get the trade within less than 2 seconds. Nobody had seen this before, not in India, but nowhere in the world. US also had New York Stock Exchange, which was floor-based. Even now, that drama of floor still continues there. If you see, it is broadly drama because not many people trade on floor. It is just to create public interest. NASDAQ used to be supposed to be computer-based. And they used to place odd sort of quotations. They used to give, market makers used to give two-way quotes. If you want to buy so much, if you want to sell so much, and then the dealer's name, his phone number will come. And if you have to trade with him, you have to call him. So there was no order matching which was happening on system. There was no automated systems in UK, nothing in Europe, not in Japan. We were the first success as NSE of automated order matching system in the world. There were minor exchanges like Caracas in Venezuela, or some Vancouver Stock Exchange in Canada. It's there in news now in India for a different reason, Vancouver. But effectively, success of automation of such large projects in the world, first time happened in India. And after that, everything else became automated. But using that satellite telecom, banks started automating. Their branches started getting connected to the same single client server framework. That is how Finacle, if some of you are using Finacle or other sort of softwares, there are 3 companies which provide banking software now. One of them used to be called COSL, that is the Citibank Overseas Services Limited. Now it has been taken over by Oracle. They had prepared the software for Citibank's automation, then they made a company, and then Oracle took it over. There is one TCS's software, and then there is Infosys software. But all of that became possible only because NSE automated itself and used the satellite telecom first time. At that time, all IT companies were small, TCS, Wipro, Infosys. To show to the foreign buyers of their services, they used to bring people to NSE to show that India can do this, Indians can do this, Indians have this skill. From there, when Y2K came, some of you are old enough to know Y2K problems, right? That banks were to close and airlines had to close on the 1st of January 2000 because they had programmed the year with only 2 digits before 2000 instead of 4 digits. So instead of writing 2001, we were writing 01. So all the banking systems had to change because suddenly when you go from 1990 to 2000, it becomes 00. And how do you calculate the index, the interest for the next? And so you can imagine how the world was going through some serious crisis on whoever had automated. And then Indians became important to the world by sending lots and lots of Indians, which were basically who were very, very studious. They might not have got great degrees from IITs and IIMs, but they were studious and they ended up saving the world in those days. But all of that, IT prowess of India, e-commerce, fintech, whatever you can think of, public digital infrastructure, it all began with one single stroke called liberalization and another stroke called setting up of NSE. India became a powerhouse in IT. Then, of course, BPO. It all started there, right? So why I wanted to give you this story is because we have not celebrated our success as NSE, but also as a country that where did this originate? Before that, there was only one project which became successful in IT, which was railway reservation system in those days. And railway reservation system was only for the railway employees to use, while as the NSE system was available for all brokers and all investors to use. So that was a real public usage, and it basically brought India together. But those days, and so financial inclusion, after that, of course, we had to set up clearing corporations for managing risks. Automation of payments happened. ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, HDFC was just set up. It became automated. ICICI also shifted gear and became it was actually new bank license, ICICI bank license. Then it got merged into ICICI, which is now the current ICICI. But effectively, both of them came new age bank. They automated using the same satellite telecom. Then we had to set up depositories because, again, share certificates used to be faked and things like that. So we had to change that. And those days, in the first project report I had created for NSE project, I was also project finance officer in IDBI. If you had done 10,000 trades a day, 10,000 trades a day after 3 years, we would have been immensely successful. Because BSE was not doing that much. The best of Harshad Mehta days, BSE did not trade more than 200 crore a day. 200 crore rupees worth trades a day. 10,000 trades would have been a great achievement. In 1 year, NSE became larger than BSE, and it was doing hundreds of thousands of trades a day. Today, NSE is the largest exchange of any type in the world in terms of number of trades, number of orders. On a good day, we'll get 1,500 crore orders in 6 hours, 15 minutes working. 1,500 crore orders, okay? And we do 21 crore trades. The value which is traded is immense, not 200 crore. It is like every fraction of a second we do more than 200 crores, right? So those are the numbers. Why I'm giving you this is, India has come a long way. Everything, what is called automation, what is called fintech, it was basically the first fintech of the world. It all started with NSE project. It was promoted by government in a conceptual sense also, although it was a private company, but owned by IDBI, ICICI, IFCI, LIC, all of them were basically PSUs, broadly except probably ILFS. But that is where it started. And then, of course, in 2000, derivatives were allowed. So that is the story of the stock market fintech part of it. But the banking fintech also started, ICICI and HDFC banks. And after that, Kotak came. They changed the way India banked, right, in many ways. And then, of course, we had UPI, Aadhaar. Aadhaar came first with Nandan Nilekani taking up a job after making billions, which was itself a very, very interesting situation. And other countries, especially Western countries, have a tradition of rich people, people who achieve outside, come and work for the government. India never had that tradition because the internal people opposed that. But in case of Nandan, he decided to come in, work for government, and he ended up again creating a new revolution using Aadhaar, but he also was involved in setting up GST network, right? And so all the GST, what we call success now, in some ways Nandan had a role to play. And then he was also involved in creating India Stack, which is what finally came out into UPI, also many other things like today ONDC, which is an e-commerce situation, which is next stage of evolution where the small people or small shopkeepers, small artisans are not able to get listed on large e-commerce engines like Amazon or Flipkart, and also have to pay large sums, including Zomato, Swiggy, to just make them deliver. Today, they are able to list themselves. I mean, I'm on the board of ONDC also. 2% payment. Today, Zomato and all might be taking 40-50% of whatever you pay, even Amazon. Large portion goes to the aggregator, whereas ONDC allows everyone to list. The smallest sari maker in Varanasi is able to sell her wares, her saris to across India without paying. I mean, they are paying less than 2% today of whatever they are earning, and that is happening for the honey sellers in Cochin, and so many, literally hundreds of thousands of people are coming. Why I'm telling you this is that the financial inclusion, the Jan Dhan Aadhaar mobile, we were discussing from at least year 2000 to 2014, we were just discussing how to bring people. But nobody thought that you have this Aadhaar and just combine it with mobile and it will happen. And then Mr. Modi becomes Prime Minister. First year we have 30 crore new accounts. Next year, I think next 2 or 3 years, we have 60 crore new accounts. And today, every household has Jan Dhan Aadhaar mobile. All the subsidies of girl child or farmer subsidies, everything is going straight away into people's accounts. It has taken away a huge layers of corruption by just automating this, but it has also allowed new players to come in. The banks were the mainstay, and now you have all the Paytms and all sorts of new players are coming. Insurance players are coming like Policy Bazaar, and so many more will come. So for me, technology is what India has grown itself on, and by quirk of fate, China did manufacturing with great planning, great execution at the government level. India did services without great planning, great execution by government, but by every entity, every individual, right? And today we are a bottom-up economy. Everyone is aware of how to use technology, how to do technology. Even COVID is unheard of in the rest of the world. How did we manage our COVID vaccines and all? Nobody can even today, after completing it, 1 billion people, 1 billion and a half people getting 2 doses of vaccines, anywhere in India, in the remotest corner of Ladakh or Arunachal Pradesh, is unbelievable by many, many standards. It is like a sci-fi movie happening in a place which was existing 500 years back. People from anywhere cannot even believe unless they come here, understand, and still it is not believed. They think it's basically a faking like China does. When you go, they put up shows. Here, a small-time vegetable vendor is able to take money on her UPI account. It is part of the inclusion, right? We were talking about inclusion. We were spending a lot of money on 5-star hotels and not doing anything. Today, it has happened and we are not talking, right? So these are achievements of this industry, the banking industry, the insurance industry, banking and financial services that include stock markets. And that's what I wanted all of you to remind, that over the last 30 years, we have achieved a lot. And any country will be able to produce more if it has a good infrastructure. If it has good roads, ports, those are what I call hard infrastructure. If you have electricity, roads, ports, and many other areas, then you are supposed to have a better growth because people are able to produce and reduce the cost of logistics and all. So I now divide the infrastructure into parts. One is what I call hard infrastructure, all the roads, ports, gutters and bridges and everything. That is hard infrastructure. We have been lagging there. We are working very hard to go there. Probably in 5-10 years, we'll reach what the Western countries have done. But there is another thing called soft infrastructure, which is what is going to produce the future wealth. The hard infrastructure was what I call ability to produce wealth on 19th century technologies. And soft infrastructure is going to allow you to produce new wealth in the 21st century. And that is where in soft infrastructure, that is 4G, 5G, e-governance, ability for people in India to teach somebody sitting in Russia for 1 hour, take $35, or do some software programming sitting here, or take orders at McDonald's in New Jersey. Those are the things which are being enabled by new technologies. India is the capital of the world in soft infrastructure. The future wealth is going to be created by this soft infrastructure. And India, with its young population, which is adapted to the new technology, is going to be far, far better at producing newer wealth than any other country, which has older population, which is not easy, which doesn't find it easy to adapt to newer technologies, because technology is the only thing that changes and that creates wealth. And so that's where India is today, in a great position to look at next 50 years, next 100 years, with a very hopeful framework that we are in the right place at the right time. 1,000 years, we were not part of the running of race of technology. First time after 1,000 years, we as a society are at the forefront when technology race is being run. And I have a tremendous hope that next 50 years will create more wealth than last 1,000 years they have created. And India will create large part of that wealth because we are a young population, technology-oriented. China has become suddenly old, Japan is old, Europe is old, America is getting old. And that's where we have a great future ahead of us. I just wanted to, all of you to know that you are not only what I call keeper of the BFSI, technologies or otherwise fintech, but also you are people who are enabling India to move forward at a much faster pace than any other country today. So thank you very much for calling me.